What's going on, guys? You're tuned in to For the Boys Garage. My name is Jose Tex, and welcome to my new YouTube channel. We're building a drift car, right? So everybody wants to have a drift car. Everybody wants to have something out there that's going to be fun, that can slide around the track, that they can bang up, won't have to worry about it. Well, that's what we're doing here. I've already had a grip and track vehicle, so now it's time to slide. This is going to be actually the first time in my life that I've ever built my own vehicle from the ground up. So I'm super excited to do that with you guys, and I hope you enjoy the content. And if not, please let me know in the comments. And if you do love it, please let me know in the comments, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you guys and just to bring you on my journey. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jose Tex, and I'm back to show you guys a quick how-to. Basically what I'm doing is I'm going to be modifying the rear hub assembly dust plate, because on a drift car, what you really want to do is you want to have a really strong rear brake setup. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. One of the most common ways, one of the most affordable ways, is basically to use your standard emergency brake, which is already in the vehicle, and you can do one of two things. You can either increase your pad compound, which basically means get better brake shoes or better pads, depending on what kind of emergency brake setup you have, or you can increase the tension of which your emergency brake engages. Now, there's tons of other ways to kind of modify your factory emergency brake handle. There's drift buttons, there's all kinds of stuff like that that we won't really get into unless it's something you guys want to know about later. But what I'm doing, which is the more expensive version and what I would consider to be the most effective version, is we're going to be running what's called a dual rear caliper setup. And what that's doing is that keeps the factory caliper and that adds an additional caliper, so that when we're actually using our emergency brake, we're engaging just one set of pads and we're not putting a stress on our factory emergency brake setup. Alright, so basically I've gone ahead and I've already gathered the things that I need for the job. We've got a 14mm deep socket, which is going to be for the 1, 2, 3, 4 14mm bolts we have. Got my impact gun, my air hose, I've got my gloves, and I've got my safety goggles for safety, because safety is super important. You always want to make sure you protect your eyes. You want to make sure you protect your hands. Those are your assets. If you need, more safety equipment, it's never going to hurt unless it's really impeding, but there's always the right equipment for the job. And the final thing we're going to need is our good old trusty angle grinder. One thing you guys are going to note here, guys, is I'm not using $3,000, $4,000 worth of tools. We're using good old tools that you can find in any location, Harbor Freight, Sears, all of these guys, things that you would be able to go out and get and not have to break your bank. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and disassemble these bolts now and pull this thing apart. One thing I always like to do is lay the parts right next to the thing that I'm working on. Lay the hardware down so I know exactly what belongs where. And so when it comes time to put it all together, we don't have to worry about missing parts or missing hardware. Alright, so that's all it took, was those 4 bolts. And now this hub should literally wiggle right out. There we go. We're going to set this aside for later. And we're sliding off the hub knuckle assembly. Put that aside as well. And now we've got this super dirty, super huge backing plate. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this groove right here where the 2 pieces of metal are joined together, and we're just going to use that as a guide. We're going to cut around that line and then try to clean it up once it's done so we don't have any sharp edges. Alright guys, so now we've got our cuts made. They're looking a little rough, but we should be good. We're going to go ahead and take this off and just kind of wiggle it back and forth as we need to. Separate that piece, and we can use it as a hat, or not. And so we've gone ahead and got the rest of the pieces that we're not going to use off. Now we're going to go ahead and take this off the vise. Now sometimes you can actually use your angle grinder to cut down these rough edges, smooth them out a little bit, but I've got a bench grinder here, so we're going to go ahead and just use the bench grinder to take care of that. Now again, when you're handling rough edges like this, especially on metal, you want to still keep your gloves on, and we're grinding down, so we're still going to keep our eyewear on. Just going to go ahead and click this on, and all we're looking for here is just to smooth out these edges. Alright, all of our smooth edges are done. We're good. We got out these rough edges. Now sometimes we'll get a little bit of metal on the back side here, so we're just going to go grab a hammer real quick, hammer that stuff flat, and we'll be good to go. Actually, you know what? We'll go ahead and get a file, and we'll just file these off, make our lives a little bit easier. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and just file these edges down with a simple file and smooth these out as much as possible. We're not looking for anything crazy here, just so we don't cut ourselves, that's all. Alright, so one thing I'm a firm believer in is always keeping your workspace as clean as possible. Obviously, we just did a bunch of grinding, we just shot a bunch of metal all over the place. So I've got this Craftsman shop vac that I just have wall mounted. I love this thing, it's got a long hose on it, and I just use it to vacuum up all the stuff that I need to vacuum up and get rid of when I'm done. So we're going to go ahead and do that now.